So how do you know if your copy is good? Let's talk metrics. Hey you, I'm Sarah Turner. I'm a freelance copywriter and copywriting mentor. And this is the thing that really sets you apart is when you are writing direct response copy and you are seeing actual conversions on the words that you have created. It is such a glorious feeling. Now, a lot of newbie copywriters are kind of scared to get those metrics back. But listen, if you are giving it your all, studying your craft, working, practicing, refining, and trying your best and getting, feedback from mentors and copy editors and things like that, I'm willing to bet you're going to be surprised at the conversion rates that you're actually going to find. So don't be afraid to ask for those numbers. You have to ask for them for you to do your job and to do your job well. I know that when I made the shift into direct response copy, I was so scared. Like, what if my copy didn't convert? What would that look like? I would be found out for the fraud that I am. But lo and behold, when I started consistently asking for numbers from my clients, I was shocked that things were going real well. So I want to encourage you to kind of dig into this lesson. It can feel a little daunting, a little heavy if you are very, very early in your career. If you're not very early in your career, you already know how amazing it is to get numbers back to back up the hard work that you put into your copy. So why is it important to track metrics on copy? This is one of those things that's kind of just like understood in the world of copywriting. So sometimes people don't take a step back and explain it to the newbies what it is all about and why it's so important. So first things first, metrics or numbers that back up your copy are how you know that it's working. Metrics also allows you to be more purposeful and goal-oriented in your writing. You're going to have the ability to tweak things if they need to be tweaked and test things so that you can see like what worked better and what worked worse because you learn from those as well. Metrics are also awesome because they prove that what you are doing is actually important and valuable. It also gives you an opportunity to course correct. Anytime something comes up, maybe you wrote a subject line to an email that didn't get quite the open rate that you're used to getting, well, you know to kind of head away from that direction. Having metrics makes your services higher quality, it backs up your work. Quite frankly, it's part of your job as a copywriter to understand and explain them and integrate them back into your writing. And of course, they're kind of a flex. It feels really good to have some solid numbers to back up everything that you've been working so hard on. So let's talk about the different metrics that are used in copywriting and what they mean. First things first, you got your good old conversion rate. Your conversion rate is the number of people who land on a page, probably a sales page or a landing page, and actually take the action you want them to take. So here are some things to consider. Maybe you are selling something, right? If you're selling something and it's a sales page, you're going to have inherently a little bit lower of a conversion rate than something that is potentially free. So landing pages are something where you're not necessarily trying to sell something, but there's still a conversion rate associated. So this kind of trips people up because sales pages are also landing pages, but all landing pages aren't sales pages. Did I say that right? Anyway, even I can get a little tongue twisted when I'm talking about it. But basically, a landing page is just a place where somebody lands and then they take a desired action. It could be a sale, which would make it a sales page, just trying to kind of reiterate here, or it could be to sign up for an email list, or it could be to download a PDF, right? So all you are looking for here, though, is the conversion rate. And the conversion rate is saying that the person who landed on the page took the appropriate action or a certain percentage, right? So it's measured in percentages. So for example, if 100 people viewed your sales page and 20 people purchased, that is a 20% conversion rate. Now, people are often asking me, what makes a good conversion rate? Like, is 20% good? Is 1% good? What is a good conversion rate? Now, there are quite a few things to take into consideration here. As I mentioned before, if it's for something that's free that you're trying to get somebody to do, it's going to probably be a much higher conversion rate than if you're actually collecting payment or making a sale, right? And then the other thing to take in consideration is how much that particular thing is. A conversion rate for a sales page for a $2,000 product is going to be much lower generally if it's like written by the same copywriter and of the same caliber than the conversion rate of something that is like $5, right? So keep in mind, there isn't a this is good, this is bad, but there are generally some guidelines. My sales pages, for example, tend to convert between 20 and 30%, which is pretty dang high, especially for something that is in the $2,000 range. These are for different programs. I have had sales pages that I've written for some e-commerce brands that have converted anywhere between 50 and 70%, but the product was actually $10, less than $10, like a supplement or something like that. So that is something to keep in mind when you are looking at your numbers. I will say to have a 50 to 70% conversion rate for something even that is a little bit more affordable is still pretty dang good. Generally, you will see people saying that a 20% conversion rate for, a sales page or a product description is a really good conversion rate. But really the most important thing that you can do here is test. Test things. If you have more than one product and one product is performing far better than the other, it's time to tweak the copy that's not performing well because you see that there's room for improvement, right? And again, keep in mind that if you bomb or if you have a situation where a conversion rate comes back and is less than ideal, it's okay. Take some time to rework that copy. And keep in mind, more often than not, you just really need to tweak the copy at the beginning. Oftentimes just the headline, restructuring the format of the first few pieces, what are called above the fold, the thing that you see before you have to actually scroll down, right? So sometimes it can be as simple as that. For example, one time I was messing with a sales page and I decided to go ahead and try and just put the price right underneath the video. All copywriting techniques and philosophy would tell you that that's probably not a good idea to just have the price right under the headline and under the video. But I wanted to try it, and lo and behold, it increased the percentage of the conversion by about 5%. It shocked me, but it was such a good reminder to always test things because you really truly never know what's going to resonate. So that's conversion rates. They are your gold standard, the most important thing in direct response copy. I mean, for the most part, there are some exceptions. So let's talk about some other metrics that kind of let you know you're doing a good job as a copywriter. The other one would be open rates. Now, this is specifically for emails. This is the percentage of people who see the subject line or who you send the email to and it actually gets in their inbox, it doesn't bounce or something like that, and actually opens the email. Now, again, there are some loose numbers online about industry standards and open rates. Generally, you'll see that a 20% open rate is pretty good. Anything below that, you might want to mess with the subject line. In fact, a lot of email service providers will allow you to split test subject lines, which is pretty cool. I love doing it. So you can write 2 subject lines. It will send out, 50% and 50% to each of the subject lines to a small percentage of the actual email list. It will do a test and say, okay, this is the winner, and then use the winner to send it out to the rest of the email list, which is pretty freaking cool. And I love, love, love. But here's something that's really important to mind when you're looking at your open rates. For example, if you have an email list of 100 and your open rate is 20%, I would say that's not very good because the email list is really small. In fact, often people, when they first start their email list, they're so excited because they have 100 people on it and the open rate is 70%. Listen, with anything as it scales, and this is actually important to keep in mind for conversion rates as well, that number is going to get a little bit closer and closer and closer to industry standard. So keep that in mind. It's not something that it was 70% and now it's 20%, but the email list was 100 and now it's 500,000 or something like that. You're gonna have different numbers just based on quantity, right? As you scale, that number is going to drop down closer to industry standard most of the time. Another thing to keep in mind, especially with open rates, is how clean a particular client or you keep your email list. And what I mean by that is, are you consistently going through and removing people from your email list who have not engaged with it in the last 30, 60, 90 days? I like to keep a really clean email list. I think it's great because you're actually getting in front of people who really are interested in you, and it also looks great to your email service provider. It can help with deliverability, some people say. And so I like to keep it pretty clean. So if people haven't engaged or opened anything or just ignored me, for 6 months, then I just go ahead and remove them from my email list. Now, my email list is 230,000 people. 230,000 people, almost 250,000 people on my email list. And my open rate hovers between 40 and 60%. That is an insanely active email list. And I like that. I like to keep it engaged. I like those numbers. They feel really good as a copywriter. And I know that I'm talking to a very engaged email list. Plus, I just want to be in front of people who actually want to hear from me. I'm not trying to bother anyone. Go ahead and hit unsubscribe if my emails are not for you. I really try to keep it packed with value, super interesting, and giving you lots of helpful information for you to help you grow your copywriting business. So open rates. That was another really helpful metric. Another really helpful metric are click-through rates, or CTR. Click-through rates say how many people actually clicked on a link. Now, you'll see click-through rates within emails, and you'll also see click-through rates on like Instagram and Facebook ads. Click-through rates can be used in a variety of situations with copy, but it's, again, just think about like what it is. It's click-through rate. So it's about a number of people who actually click on the link that you want them to click on. And now that is a really interesting metric. And generally, again, keep in mind that there's always a range. The industry standard for a good click-through rate is generally around 1 to 2% in an email. Now, will you have higher click-through rates? Yeah, you can absolutely have higher click-through rates. But I like to remind people that that one in particular is generally a lower one, and so to not be alarmed. Keeping in mind, anytime you're building out a funnel, you are going to lose people with every click along the way. So maybe it goes from Instagram ad to Facebook ad to, an opt-in page, from an opt-in page to an email list, from an email list to a sales page. Every step of the way, you're going to lose people, right? And that's okay. And ultimately, the whole conversion of the funnel might be like 1%, 2%. But that's actually not a bad thing. It might sound low, but as you scale, which is one of the beautiful things about funnels and digital marketing, is as you're able to scale and bring more people through your funnel, it's going to work out in the end, obviously, if the copy is good, right? That's why what we do is so freaking important. One thing I want to talk about, even though it kind of doesn't fit into this list because it's a little bit of like an anti-metric or something, is unsubscribe rates. Now, I want to chat about this real quick because people tend to freak out when they see people unsubscribing from their email list and they think, oh my gosh, was it the copy? Am I not doing a good job? Are we doing something wrong? And I always remind my clients, it is so important to have people unsubscribing because you don't want to annoy people who are not interested in what you have. And quite frankly, there are always going to be people who are not interested in what you have to offer. That is okay. That is just life. So what is a healthy unsubscribe rate? Generally between 1 and 3%. That's what I've been seeing across the board in just like articles people have written, other people who have email lists that have shared that with me. But really like a 1% unsubscribe rate is considered pretty healthy. So the next metric I want to chat with you about is cost per lead, or how much it costs to acquire a new lead. And this is generally seen in Facebook ads or Instagram ads or ads, but basically it's like how much money are you putting in to actually get somebody to that next step of your funnel, right? So it's the cost per lead or the cost per email generally, because you're having people usually sign up for an email list. It could also be a cost per conversion or a cost per purchase is another way if you actually want to track how many dollars you had to put into ad spend to actually get them all the way through your funnel to make a purchase. So those are some other important metrics to know. And then finally, you've got all the wonderful metrics of SEO, if that's your jam. SEO metrics generally include things like keyword rankings, click-through rate, traffic, bounce rate, how many times people bounce away, and things like that. But I'm not going to dig into those because I really wanted to focus heavily on direct response conversions right now. And those are most of the important ones. So I want to encourage you to really dig into metrics. They are the best. They are, quite frankly, how you do your job. They are going to make you a better copywriter all around. And I want to leave you with this one last reassurance. You will write copy that you think is awesome and then bombs. It is just going to happen if you're in the game long enough. And I want to remind you that that's okay. It happens. It happens to the best of us. Just dust yourself off and remember it's not game over. Just make sure that you tweak it, try it, and test it again. Another thing that is super important before I wrap up is that you have to have enough people come across whatever your piece of copy is or go through your funnel before you make any conclusions. If you have 10 people go to your sales page and there's no purchases, you cannot jump to any conclusions. 10 people is not enough for it to be statistically significant. The numbers really should be in the thousands for you to make any conclusions about whether or not the numbers that you're seeing are actually statistically significant. If you can only work with hundreds, that's okay too, but just please keep that in mind that you are working with a small volume volume, and a small volume just simply isn't enough to make any serious or lasting conclusions. So hang in there, and if you enjoyed this video, go ahead and hit that thumbs up button. You know the drill. Leave a comment. I love hearing what you guys have to say, and of course, don't forget to subscribe. I appreciate you guys. You guys have a lot of good ideas. This video actually came from one of your comments, so thank you so much. I really like engaging with you guys. It makes it a lot more fun for me too. So have a lovely day, and I will see you next week.